Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming, especially to Nora and Mike from Alert California. They're going to talk about the cameras for wildfire detection tonight. I'm Sohaila Bana, President of West Contra Costa Fire Safe Council. It's a pleasure to have you, and the floor is yours.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you everyone for your time and being here this evening. I'm sure we're all really passionate about fire safety and fire management and fire suppression. So I'm very grateful to take the opportunity to show you kind of another tool in the tool bag. So before I start sharing my screen, I'm just going to give a little bit of background on what Alert California is. A lot of people may be aware of Alert Wildfire. And so you may notice that a lot of those Alert Wildfire cameras are no longer in California for various reasons. So my parent company, Digital Path, I started working with wildfire cameras back in 2018 out of an original project from 2014 having to do with weather node. And so Alert Wildfire was a consortium between University of Nevada, Reno, UCSD down in San Diego, and University of Oregon. And eventually in 2018, our sponsors and a lot of first responders who are our primary users for moving these cameras to help save time and help save life and property, they decided they wanted to see more innovation in the platform, essentially. And so that spur for innovation then kind of led us to develop this website, Alert California, which we are now expanding into a much broader Alert West platform, which will, once we finish launching it, will be not just for wildfire cameras, but will be an all hazards platform. So we're hoping to be able to have our platform help with things like earthquakes and tsunamis and oil spills. So a lot of very fascinating things will be coming up in the near future, but it has started as and continues to be used as a wildfire camera control system. So I'm going to start sharing my screen shortly, and I'll try and keep it brief so that we can also get to the other topics in the meeting. But if you let me, I will talk about it for a full hour. So let's see.
Would you like to explain if it's a nonprofit or a state agency where the budget comes from?
Sure. First of all, can you see my screen? Okay.
Yes, perfectly.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you.
So it is, it's a multidisciplinary organization. So a lot of the funding comes from UCSD. It is a nonprofit in that way. But we basically get a lot of our funding from various sources around the state of California. And then the parent company that I work for, that we work on the software, and we've installed about 224 of the over 1,000 cameras in the state of California. So that's a private company, but it's very much not something that we do for money. So this is very much about, we care a lot about saving life and property. We're based in Chico, California. So a lot of us were affected by the Camp Fire in 2018. So multiple people in this company lost their homes, their families lost their homes. The same thing happened with the Dixie Fire in 2021. And so we're very invested in just fighting wildfire and learning to understand the effects of extreme climate. I know I have a lot of climate grief, and so that's something that kind of drives that sense of urgency that I have in helping to run and maintain this system. So I hope that's helpful in that. But yeah,
yes, thank you.
SD program. Okay, so if you can see my screen here, you'll notice that this is the homepage of the Alert California website. And I just want to stress that members of the public, you can come to this page and you don't need a login in order to view these cameras. And so that is something that it's very helpful, because you can view these cameras and you can see what's going on, and you can get a sense for what's happening, and you don't have to be logged in. And that is something that we really want to stress, because the primary users of the website in terms of moving the cameras are first responders, and we like to keep it that way primarily because it's meant for fire personnel. So we really stress that, and that's why we have We have these relationships that we build with various fire agencies across the state, and some of them are on the federal level, some of them are in the state level and on the local level. So we really make sure that the people who are moving the cameras are the people who need to be moving the cameras. But that being said, you can view all of these cameras. So I'm going to go into the features of the website and kind of what that looks like for most members of the public. So you'll notice that you can search for cameras by name up here at the top, and then you have these toggle options which will affect your view in the map here. So I'm going to go into that in a little more detail in a second, but anytime that you have like a specific camera that you want to keep an eye on, you're like, okay, I know that it's very likely that a fire may break out here, and I'm kind of worried about that. I search for it up here. And so then that way it's just ease of access. We try and make it really easy to navigate the website. So you notice because there's over 1,000 cameras in the whole state that are dedicated to this, there's all of these camera arrows here on the map that you can see, and they're kind of cluttered. So we also like to make sure that users can toggle these cameras in order to see which cameras have been recently moved, which tends to indicate fire activity. So if I go from all cameras to active cameras, you can see these are the cameras that have been moved within the past 3 hours in the whole state of California. And so these cameras are, you can tell exactly when they were moved because these target lines here are color coded according to the time that they were moved. And any information that I'm saying right now can also be found in this map legend here on the top right corner of the screen. So all of these cameras have these dark yellow or light yellow targets, and those indicate that in the case of the dark yellow ones, these were moved 2 hours ago, and the light yellow ones were between 2 and 3 hours ago. So any target that is purple has been moved in the past 5 minutes. Any target that is red has been moved in the past 15. Orange is 1 hour. And then as I mentioned, dark yellow is 2 hours and light yellow is 3 hours. And then after 3 hours, those target lines will disappear. So if I turn that back on and I go over here to this arrow here, you'll notice that I have the ability to show all targets. So that will then turn on all of the target lines for all of the camera arrows in the state. And what that does is it shows me which direction the camera is pointing in and about how far it can view. So I believe these cameras have a view shed of between 25 and 30 miles. Excuse me, I had some spicy food today. So then that kind of allows you to sort of see exactly how far a camera can see. So in some areas, it works out really, really well because, like, for example, we put some of these cameras on top of buttes or mountains or on trees or things like that in a non-invasive way. And then that allows us to have a very wide view shed in order to get as much of a possible view of a fire as we can, or potential fire activity that may crop up in an area. So if you're ever curious about where and how we do camera installations, especially for security reasons, that doesn't really factor into our current thinking about it. We actually do a lot of view shed analysis in order to determine where a camera will be placed. And we work with these fire agencies to also see where they need cameras to be placed as well. So we're really intense with that in terms of we want to make sure that we're putting down a camera at a place that it's going to make sense for it to be put down on. We've also put cameras on pre-existing towers, such as like fire lookout towers. So it's basically, in a lot of cases, it's like an extension of an already kind of in place institution, right? We all know what fire lookouts are and how important they are. So if we are able to put cameras on there, then they can really help with the extension of fire season that we're seeing out west with the drought that we've been going through. So another thing that you can also do is you can also see which cameras are offline in the state. And you'll see that because we've had some winter weather up here in the mountains, especially, you can see that string of cameras there, that's offline. We do a pretty good job of maintaining our offline cameras and trying to get them back on as soon as possible, but sometimes weather just happens. So again, these are also color coded. So anything that is red here has been offline in the past 24 hours. Anything that is orange has been offline in over 24 hours. And then yellow camera feeds, they've either been offline long-term, and that happens from time to time for various reasons, or we haven't yet gotten the feed to them. And then last but not least, there's this camera icon here. You may notice it's the same color, but it's different shape over here. So we have the camera arrows, and then we have blue circles. And you'll notice that most of these circles are either in the North Bay and sort of South Mendocino region, or in the Lake Tahoe area, in the Tahoe Basin. And so basically these circle icons indicate cameras that we don't provide the feed for, but we still want you to be able to easily access them. And so if you left click on them, then you can follow them to the website that does provide that feed. And if you are a logged in user, if you're fire personnel and you're logged in, then there's also an option for you to access that camera directly. So that we really try and, you know, if we have any kind of blind spots in the state we can't see, or we don't have that very many cameras and we're aware of the fire risk, we want to make sure above all that we are able to kind of make sure that we fill in that gap in one way or another, even if we don't provide the feed. So the map also has a lot of features that, again, I'm not logged in. You can see up here that I am not logged into the website, but I can still use all of these features. And so I really encourage you as a member of the public, or as someone who's just interested in fire safety but may not be fire personnel, to try these features out for yourself, because it can be really, really helpful. So I'm gonna kind of use this area as like my little home base, because I used to live down here. But basically, there are a few things that you can do that are really helpful. So there's an address bar up here, and you'll notice that you can copy and paste coordinates in 3 different formats here, or you can type them in, and that can be helpful for whatever needs you have. But you can also search street addresses and cross streets. So I'll give you a couple of examples of those now. So let's see. Let's see if that, oops, I'm not typing well. Come on. Okay. So if I type that in now, it will take me to an address here. But say I want to type in another address just somewhere else in the state, or I want to do a cross street. I can type that in and it will take me there. And if I zoom out, you'll see that while I'm in this map page on the home page, that I have been able to keep both of those map pins there. So I can put as many addresses down here as I want to. And I can also do something really cool. I can measure the distances between them. So I'm going to do that now with this measuring tool. So let's go here and all the way to Atwater. And I'm going to finish that measurement. And you'll notice that it tells me exactly how many miles and how many feet that is. So I can have it center on the line. If I want to, I can create another measurement. So I want to go from Gilroy to Modesto. Finish that there. Same thing. And I can also create area and perimeter measurements. So say I want to look at Redwood Regional and I want to figure out a specific perimeter within it. Going from Canyon to Joaquin Miller. Beautiful park. I miss that park. And I'm just gonna create that perimeter how I want to. And then in order to finish it, I can either click finish measurement here, or I can go back to the first point. And there it will tell me exactly how many acres, how many feet the perimeter is, and in miles as well. And so then if I exit out of that measurement, I can just go back and click on it. Same with the distance measurements I created down here. You may have to zoom in a little bit in order to do that, but it's still there. And so those measurements will persist, and I can also delete them from the map if I so wish. So I'm going to do that now. And that just allows me to sort of customize my own use of the website. And just to get the specific features that I want. Okay. And so another thing that I can do is I can really customize this map in whatever way I need to. So I'm on the hybrid map layer right now. So it's showing me sort of like a view of both streets and terrain, basically. But if I wanted to, I could just have a terrain view of the map, or just a satellite view of the map, or a street view of the map, whichever is best. I like either terrain or hybrid when I use it personally, but it's whatever you need. We also have fire perimeters. So for 2022 fires, any fire that's broken out in the state will show up as a perimeter here. So this, for example, is a mosquito fire. And we have the complexes up here, and then McKinley up here. So that information is there as well. We also have CAL FIRE units and counties, and you notice that I can put multiple layers up on the map at the same time. And if I click on the topmost layer, that's the information that I get. And then if I take that layer off, then it'll show me the one that I put on before. So I can see that's okay, that's CAL FIRE SCU. And it will also, we also have CPUC fire threat tiers. So basically you can see exactly what the utility hazards and the fire threats are for those there. And you can see it in West Contra Costa County, here that is. And it's high here, it's extreme.
I'm sorry, can you explain what this layer is? It's new to me.
Yeah, so basically it sort of matches the map that you have on your screen, Sohaila, but it's definitely something that our utilities workers use a lot more. So this helps kind of show where the assets are and where the most danger is from those assets. So if any of those catch fire, then that's where the most extreme threat of harm to life and property would be. So that's what that is. Sort of as like a very brief view of that. Again, our utilities workers use that layer the most. And we also have another layer here for direct protection areas. So if you're ever worried about, okay, who's supposed to be looking at a camera in a certain area, who has the proper designation to look at that camera, then you can see that here. So you'll see that here there are multiple layers going on. So if I click on the white one, that'll show me, okay, the DPA group is the local group. And this is state. So CAL FIRE SCU should be responding to a fire or moving a camera in this area. And local would be sort of moving a camera in this area. And that doesn't mean that, you know, CAL FIRE can't move a camera over here. But what it indicates is who has the priority to move that camera. So in the case of something like a camera movement conflict, if there are two people trying to move a camera at the same time, then this helps us kind of mediate that. And it also helps us to just ensure that we know exactly like where someone is supposed to be kind of looking for a fire or fighting a fire or concentrating their efforts in terms of suppression, mitigation, or mutual aid. So there's various things with that. And then another thing that you can do with the map is, so you can set down addresses in the address bar, but you can also do something, you can set a start location. So when you first visit the website, you will be asked to share your location. So as long as you don't have a VPN on, your location should probably be somewhere in California. And so we're based in Chico's, for example. So if I click on this location icon here, and it will just take me to where I am in Chico. But say I'm looking, I want my start location to be somewhere else in the state, and I want it to be in Boulder Creek. I can go down here to Boulder Creek and left click on the place that I want it to be. And then I will left click, and again, I have the option to copy and paste these latitude and longitude coordinates in whatever format I need them. But you'll see this set as start location. I'm going to left click on that. And then that will sort of be my home location. So anytime I come back to the website and I have that saved there, then it will show up there. But if I'm moving around the state and I want to go back to that start location, so like I'm looking at a camera around Lake Mono, and I can just click on my start location and it will take me back to Boulder Creek. Or if I want to cycle back and forth between my actual location and my start location, then I can do that. So again, you have a lot of features for how you can sort of view your own spatial reality within the state of California and how the cameras relate to that. So one more thing that you can do before I talk about these camera feeds here and what they mean is you can also create what we call either an image quilt or a tile set. And this allows you to see multiple camera feeds at once. So if you're worried about a specific area, then really the use of it is that you can bookmark those camera feeds and have them all on one screen. So I'll show you what that looks like. And there's multiple ways you can do it. You can either draw a polygon, like I did with the measurement tool to create an area, or you can use a square. So I'm going to draw a polygon, and I'm going to stick to cameras that are in the northern part of the East Bay here. Let's say I want everything going up to this camera here. And I can get as selective with it as I want. If I want to be like, actually, I don't really want that camera, then I can exclude it. And just like with the measurement tool, I can either click on the first point to close the shape, or I can click finish right here. So I'm going to click on that first point, and you'll see it opens a new tab up here. And so what that has done is now it's taken every camera in that area that I created, and it's put it as a tile display, basically. And so I can change the size of that tile display. I can make them small or big as I need to. I can go full screen into them and then exit full screen. And I can also customize this. Say I want to subtract or add cameras from it, I can do that. So I'm going to do that now. I'm going to, oh, it seems like that's bugging out a little bit. I'll have to get my programmers on it. So side note, we are always a work in progress. So sometimes features may need to be worked on. And I do always have my programmers kind of keeping an eye on things. So if I need to add a camera here, so say I'm going to add Grizzly Peak, I can do that. And then I should be able to, oops, it took me away from that. I should be able to subtract it, but it looks like that's bugging out. So I'm not going to be able to do that right now. But when I am done customizing it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to save and copy this as a URL. And so what it will do when I do that is it takes all of the camera names basically, and it turns them into one easy number. And this number 4610 will always be this same tile set. So all of these same cameras, when I go back to 4610, will be these same cameras. So you can see this one down here, Wildcat Canyon. So if I go to another tile set that someone made, say we'll do 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is a tile set that someone else made in the system, and it always persists. It will always be that group of cameras. And I go back to the one that we made, which was what, 4610? Then it takes me back to that. So you can bookmark these tile sets, and you can make as many as you need to as well. So say you have, okay, I want to be worried about this set of cameras, but then I also want one on a separate page that also has like one in Moraga. Then I can do that. And then I can save and copy that URL. And you'll see now that's 4611. And if I go back to 4610, it's still that first one that I made. So you can, again, you can make as many of those tile sets as you need. It will always be that number. These persist. And we always like to make sure that you can have as many cameras in here as you need. We ask that you use no more than 100 in one single tile set. So that's a feature that is extremely useful, especially if you're worried about fire in a specific area. So you can have a tile set that's just all of the cameras in Contra Costa County. You can have a tile set that's the ones that are on the border with Alameda. You can have a tile set of ones that look into Contra Costa County. So it's whatever you need it to be. So you're able to customize it on that level. So you've noticed over here that all of our cameras are in night mode because the sun has gone down. So these 4 cameras to the right of the map, what these are the 4 most recently moved cameras in the map view. So Petaluma 1, for example, that camera icon starts to glow orange when I am hovering over this camera feed. Likewise with Bulmer and Sugarloaf and Lafayette Lucas Drive. And you can also see that the target and the view shed will appear when I hover over. And likewise, if I hover over a camera icon here, it will also show me in the right-hand side what that camera is looking at, where it's pointed, and how much it's zoomed in. And you can tell how much it's zoomed in by how big or small its view shed is. So the smaller the view shed, the more it's zoomed in. And so for places that have more than 1 camera at a site, like this place, Grizzly Peak Overlook, if I hover over 1, so you can see that was Grizzly Peak Overlook 2, and then I come back and I hover over it again, it will show me the first camera. So for these co-located cameras, I can get a good sense of what both are looking at any given time, just by hovering over it. And again, you want to hover and not click, because if you click on it, then it will take you into that camera console page, which we'll talk about in a second. So the more that I zoom out or in, you might notice that these camera feeds are changing. And so again, it's all of the 4 most recently viewed cameras in the map view. So if I zoom out to the entire state of California, it'll show me what's zoomed in or what's been moved in that. And that's all over the state, as you can see by the camera icons changing color. So if I zoom in down here, again, that changes. So these images here are camera feeds based on my location all around the state. So it's showing me the cameras that are now closest to me, and the further I scroll down, the further away those cameras are. And it shows all of the cameras in the state. And if I toggle online, the offline cameras on, it will also show me which ones are offline too, as indicated by that icon there in the corner. And if I zoom in, I'm going to zoom back into the East Bay here. Then just like with the 4 most recently moved cameras, that camera view changes as well to all of the camera views that are in that specific map view based on how much I've zoomed in. So now I would like to go into a camera console page. It's not going to be as exciting because it's nighttime, and the nighttime cameras can not be as fun as the daytime ones sometimes, but you can view the camera feeds without having to move the camera. You'll notice that if you're not logged in, you left click, you're not going to be able to move it, but you can still see what's happening. You can still use the map, and you can still use the panorama features. You just can't move the camera. So one thing that you're able to do is you can view the camera in full screen mode. You can also view a time lapse of it from the past 12 hours. So if I go back 6 hours, it'll show me the camera during the daytime. I can pause it, and then I can go frame by frame if I need to. So this kind of helps me keep an eye on things like weather conditions, especially if it's been a really dry and hot and windy day. I can kind of just track that and make sure that I'm taking the steps that I need to prepare. And then I can also kind of fast forward it by doing this. And you can see the camera go from daytime mode to nighttime mode too, which is also kind of fun. Another thing I can do is I can also, all of those map features that I just talked about on the home page, I can use them in here too, in a camera console page. So all of that is functional. And then another thing I can do is I can look at the panorama, which provides a 360-degree view of what the camera can see. And you'll notice that as I'm down here, there's a red target line that's indicating where I'm pointing at in the camera. You can see that the camera view itself is in one direction. So like the camera is currently looking this way, but I still get a 360-degree view of what the camera can see. And I can also go back in time in these panoramas. I can create it as full screen. So you notice that as I'm left clicking over here, the time in the right hand corner is changing because these panoramas are taken every 5 to 10 minutes based on the camera's internet connection and a variety of other factors. But really what that allows us to do is it actually allows us to help track and train our AI system that we're developing. And it allows you to kind of see a sense of like, again, weather conditions and things like that as things change throughout time. We will eventually be able to implement a panorama time lapse, but that's in development and it will take some time to do that because it's really complicated. And you can also see that these images, they take time to generate just in terms of getting everything to line up perfectly. So we used to manually calibrate all of these cameras, but with over 1,000 cameras, that's like kind of impossible to do. So we're working on auto calibrating them. So that would be very helpful for a lot of other features that we're developing as well, but including getting a sort of more seamless lineup of these photos. So in addition to like looking.
Sorry for interruption, but I'm confused about the panoramic image. Where is it coming from? Is it automatically rotating once in a while?
So the camera is actually, it's spinning around. So that's why.
All of them or specific ones?
All of them, every 5 to 10 minutes.
Oh, every 5 to 10 minutes they rotate once quickly. At what speed?
They rotate pretty quickly. Yeah, you can sometimes see it in the time lapse where. So it has like these 6 designated places that it kind of snaps these pictures and then it stitches them together and then it generates this 360-degree image. And it does occasionally pause these panoramas. Like if someone is moving a camera, then you'll notice a pause in the generation of panoramas because we don't want to interfere with camera movement.
Okay, thank you.
Hope that's helpful. But yeah, so you can step forward and backward in time with these panoramas. So you'll notice that if I pick a date here, say I want to go back to November 10th at 3 p.m. then it will show me the panorama that was generated closest to the time that I selected in that date box up there. So that's 2:59. And then I can jump forward and see the next one, which was 3:10. So like 11 minutes between that panorama and the next one. So you can see that there. And again, you can use it for tracking fire behavior or weather or kind of seeing an incident progress over time. You might notice that there are a lot of prescribed burns that are happening in the state because of the burn ban being lifted and fire season essentially being over for many portions of the state. And so you're kind of one thing that you're able to do is you're able to like kind of track the progression of a prescribed burn over time. So for example, down in Salinas, there was a really big one that was like 900 acres or something like that. And so if you go to those panoramas in those cameras, you can actually see like the progression of that prescribed burn over time as it was like in the camera feed. And it's like kind of hanging out in the middle here. I actually had a few friends in Santa Cruz who messaged me. They were like, "Hey, what's that fire? We can see it across the bay." And it's this prescribed burn. So in the future, one thing that we are planning on implementing are incidents pages. And so anything that is kind of like, you're not sure what's happening, it looks like a fire, it might be a prescribed burn, we plan on having incidents pages for that so that there's much more public information on that. I know that with Watch Duty and with Twitter and with social media, there's a lot of public information that's already out there. And then of course, CAL FIRE has their public information avenues, but this is something that we hope to kind of, if you see a fire on the camera and it's not in Irwin or it's not in Watch Duty yet, then we want to be able to kind of get that information out there as quickly as we can. So the panorama is definitely one useful tool, both for the public and for first responders in that sense. So that is most of the public features of the Alert California website. We are working on developing AI, and I can talk a little bit about that if we have time, but I'd also like to defer to Sohaila and make sure that we can get to the other event priorities as well. So.
Sure. Thank you very much, Nora. Really appreciate it. Very interesting, fascinating information. I have some questions, but I want to ask others. Are there any questions for Nora so far? Anyone? Okay. So I'd like to look at the cameras in our area and see what area they cover, because we feel like we do not have enough cameras here around El Sobrante.
El Sobrante, yes. Here.
Like, look at Orinda, there are 3 cameras. They have like 360-degree, but up here, our little poor area, we feel like it's definitely not enough, especially because we have very high voltage PG&E towers running in East Bay Regional Parks.
Right.
That increases the danger. So it'd be nice if you could add a couple of cameras. I don't know what angles they cover right now.
Right, so these have a 360-degree view. I'm actually going to log in to show you a little bit of that. So if I go into, so yeah, I definitely agree with you. We need to put more cameras in these areas, especially anything that's high voltage. It's not just a fire risk, it's also an all hazards risk. So like, if an earthquake happens, then this whole area of the East Bay is also in trouble. So yeah, it's definitely something that's a huge priority for me as someone who's interested in extreme climate and the effects on human populations and helping keep people safe. So you can see that it does have a view shed of about 30 miles here. But if there's like something like a ridge, then that can definitely cause an obstruction. So if there's a fire, say like that breaks out behind this ridge or something, that would not be able to be detected by this camera. It might be detected by this camera, but that's exactly why there's a need for more cameras in the East Bay, and especially the northern portion of the East Bay.
Also around Point Mulate and Point Pinole, where Chevron is, you said it can be, if there are fumes or other things, accidents. Should we ask Chevron to do it, or would Alert California do that? Because it needs to be away from Chevron to see what's going on top of it, both in terms of fire danger and, leaks.
Well, I definitely am biased as an Alert California person, but I would say that Alert California might be the better person, or the better organization to kind of have that go through, just in terms of how our command and control platform works. I'm sure other people could speak to that and would have opinions on it, but I know that for how many cameras we have and how well we tend to maintain our networks, like even now with winter weather, over 95% of our cameras are online. So I think that's quite a feat, considering that some of our cameras are in extremely hard to reach places.
Right. My question, sorry, was if you want a camera to monitor what's going on in Chevron refinery, would Alert
Right.
California do it for public safety, or would Chevron have to pay for that?
Well, so in terms of like paying for cameras,
It's a hazmat issue, not a fire issue. God damn it. Sohaila, you don't seem to have. You don't have the common sense.
oh dear. Well, I can still answer your question, Sohaila.
Thank you.
So in terms of our leasing agreements and where we decide to put cameras and how that works, so we do work with various organizations, and the leasing agreements do take some time, but actually like the actual budgeting of that is something that gets worked out. And we do view shed analysis when we put a camera in a place, we know that it's going to be a useful place. And then we also, in terms of expanding our camera networks, it does depend on where the camera is. If it's in a national park, if it's on private land, the leasing process for that varies depending on where the camera is sited.
Okay, and what is the altitude usually? How high does the camera have to be?
It really depends. A lot of them, I would say, just based on my past experiences with manually calibrating the cameras, because I do have to know the AGLs for them. A lot of them are about 20 to 25 meters in the air, but it depends on where they are. So for example, down in Santa Cruz, there's a camera on the Dream Inn, if you've ever been there, and it's just on the building, but it's there.
Okay, like 60 to 80 feet high.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you. And are there any heat detection cameras or
Oh,
any
yes.
plans to add those?
So yeah, so we did have, actually, we put 2 FLIR cameras on the mosquito fire this year, and FLIR cameras were extremely useful in helping to fight the Dixie Fire in 2021. So my parent company actually, like, we went out there and we put them up like in the middle of the fire. I have a friend who, like, he has videos of like going to put that camera up, and there's literally like the fire on the side of the road right next to him. So FLIR cameras, they are not widely deployed because they're expensive, but we are like extremely, we find them to be extremely useful, and we do want to deploy more of them.
Okay, thank you. And so 2 more questions. How do we specifically follow up on more cameras in our area?
Sure. So I think Mike would probably be able to answer this better than I can.
Sure. So Sohaila, I've reached out to some of our local fire agencies in Contra Costa County, including East Bay Regional Parks Fire and their general manager, and asked if they would be willing to consider a discussion about adding some cameras up in their area. And then just waiting for those government entities to respond back on their willingness to work with us to get cameras installed. And we have different sponsors who are willing to install those cameras. And in fact, a lot of the cameras in your area were sponsored by PG&E. So as we continue to work with those entities to secure funding for additional sponsorship, that's definitely something we've considered. And if you can imagine, since you know me, I tend to put a lot of pressure on our Contra Costa fire agencies to say, let's get some more cameras down there. And so far, I would like to see a little more response, but I think we're heading in the right direction.
Excellent. Thank you very much. As I understand, Chevron has its own fire agency. So you may want to contact them for having a camera to monitor Chevron, which is both, there are fire hazards there and Point Malate, Chevron refinery area, as you see on the map there, and also possibilities of leak could be detected by cameras. That'd be awesome.
I will mention we've had discussions with the Cal OES about the continued development of all hazards technology in our AI capabilities, our artificial intelligence. And one of the things that we actually considered was actually building a oil sheen model to be able to test our AI capabilities, so that those oil leaks that tend to happen on the coast that are very, very dangerous to our environment. We're able to actually address those and find those. And we're in discussions now to find out how to make that happen and how to install additional cameras for that all hazards type approach.
Mike is exactly
Excellent.
right. And I did mention the all hazards capabilities that we are working to try and implement for the future. Because yeah, I know that anyone who's lived in the Bay Area, there's that definite oil spill dread. And I remember it was 2021, there was a big one. And so yeah, it's definitely something that's on our minds. And our AI capabilities in terms of wildfire. I mean, our models are consistently detecting fires in daytime, I believe an average of over 20 minutes before Irwin at this point. And at nighttime, there have been times where we've detected a fire 17 hours before dispatch was called.
Wow.
So we know that our AI is effective and useful, and if we're able to extend it to all hazards, like with Mike mentioning oil spills and detecting oil sheens like that, that would be a game changer. So
Excellent. We have 10 more minutes. If there are no more questions, feel free to show you said you would talk about the AI capabilities or.
sure. Yeah, our main guy who talks about AI, Scott, he does a much better job of talking about it than I do, but I will do my best. So as a logged in user, you may notice that I have a couple more features, including camera movement. And also because I help like implement and test website features, there are a few things that I also need to kind of be careful about showing and using, but I'm going to show you the potential detection toggle here. And so basically what that does is that anytime that there's an AI detection, which may not happen as much at nighttime since we're still working on our nighttime model. So you'll notice these dashed target lines, those indicate AI detections. And so just like with color-coded recently moved target lines, these are also color coded according to when the detection actually happened. So this was about between 5 and 15 minutes ago, and this was about an hour ago. So we also have an AI, actually, what's gonna make sense for me to show first? So I mentioned that in our panoramas, you can see AI detections. Let me see if that didn't change, because our programmers are working on it like literally every day. We are constantly working on training and retraining the AI to reduce the number of false positives. So there's a detection here, and you can see in the AI filter, if I toggle that on, I can see, okay, so this was a missed detection, but our accurate detections, particularly during the daytime, it will show up with a box and then the confidence level on which it detected that and what it is. So if I go to this AI hits page over here, so basically it's going to show me all of the confirmed fires from whatever date I choose. And I'm going to ask it to show day hits, and I can also have it filter by region. So I'm going to have it filtered to just the CZU and SCU regions. Maybe I'll select all, then CZU and SCU. And we'll also eventually update it to have more of like kind of the like the federal service, the Forest Service side of things as well. So actually, since there were no detections, since fire season is kind of over, and the CZU or SCU regions, I have it set to North Ops, and I can show the confirmed smoke detections, and it's going to show me each time that there is a confirmed smoke detection in the state. So if I go to full screen panorama of this camera up here, then you can see in that box there, that's a confirmed detection. That is smoke. It looks like a prescribed burn, which there are a lot of currently going on. And so I will see if there's a bigger smoke detection that's visible. Yep, got that one there. And so basically, in order to reduce the number of false detections and false positives or redundant detections, we make sure that we train the AI every day. And we're on our like 10th or 11th model by now, I think.
So is it the detecting the change versus continuous time or same time yesterday?
So you can see here that, so for the Mount Jackson detections here that it's showing, so it detected the smoke here at different times.
Oh,
So
okay, same
indicated-
day. Over
yeah.
time, if there's sudden change, it will detect it.
Yeah,
Okay,
and I have it filtered by
Interesting.
date as well,
Okay.
so. Mhm.
all right. That's very interesting. Thank you very much. And is California the only state using this technology?
We do know that there are other people who are developing AI technology. However, what our strength really is in terms of our AI detection capabilities is our actual like human determination behind it. So with our operations center, in order again to reduce false positives and to not waste any people's time, we always think that human intervention with AI detection is a really good idea. And again, we train our AI day in, day out, and now with our nighttime models, same thing going on there. And also in terms of our AI detection capabilities, that has to go hand in hand with our large camera network and our network building capabilities. So that is really one of the most important aspects of it. Like the AI itself is great, but without the actual like teamwork that goes into it and the collaboration that goes into it, it's not as useful. So.
Thank you very much. So nobody's actually sitting down and watching these cameras. It's just based on need that emergency responders go to them, right?
Oh, no, we watch these. Yeah. In fact, our CEO has called in a dozen fires. I've called in 3 or 4 at this point. So, beginning next year, we have a fully staffed operations center that's operational 24/7 for these detections and also for fire incidents. At the moment, our operations center is 24/7 during fire season. So we provide ongoing support during fire incidents. And so there are times where like I'm here 12 hours a day, just making sure that if a fire incident is happening, that fire personnel have the support that they need.
Yeah, but nobody's, I mean, AI detection triggers a follow-up, but visually people are not watching the cameras, or are they?
We do, yeah, it's a part of
Oh,
our
okay.
operations, yeah.
Wow, impressive. Thank you very much. That's
course.
excellent. I really enjoyed it. It has more capabilities than I expected, and thank you so much for the information. Thank you, Mike, for fighting to have more cameras in the area. We really appreciate it, and keep us posted about further capabilities regarding leaks or whatever can go on Chevron. We really appreciate it. Are there any more questions for Nora or Mike? No? Okay, very good. Thank you so much. I'll send you a link of the recording, and we hope to have you back in the future as the capabilities grow, or hopefully we'll have more cameras in El Sobrante to learn about it. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Have a great
everyone.
night.
Thanks. Have a nice evening. Bye.